Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. The first season of House of the Dragon was mainly devoted to establishing the rivalry between Alicent Hightower's Greens and Rhaenyra Targaryen's Blacks. As the years have gone by, that rivalry has gotten more and more fierce, and in Episode 8, the battle lines were clearly defined. While Aegon, the son of Alicent, and Rhaenyra are expected to compete for the throne, Daemon and Aemon's deadly rivalry was also beginning to take shape in Episode 8. Daemon versus Aemon is set to be one of the most spectacular battles we've seen in House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones, but what really happens between them in the books? Stick with us to find out. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. The battle above the God's Eye. Of course, the dragons fought in various conflicts during Fire and Blood. However, the battle between Princess Daemon and Aemon Targaryen was perhaps the most exciting part of the Dance of the Dragons and the biggest dragon versus dragon conflict in Westeros history. According to the novels, Daemon didn't like Aemon and his elder brother Aegon from the moment they were born, since they pushed him further down the line of succession. But once the Dance of the Dragon started, their animosity heated up. It all started when Aemon and Lucerys Velaryon both tried to persuade the Baratheons to join their respective sides early in the conflict. Aemon, riding his dragon, Vhagar, pursued Lucerys as he fled Storm's End and murdered Lucerys and his dragon, Arrax. Daemon vowed to exact revenge on Lucerys for such a horrific deed, promising Rhaenyra a son for a son. Aemon commanded an army in a counterattack after Daemon had successfully taken control of the citadel of Harrenhal for the Blacks during the battle. But when they got there, however, they discovered that Daemon had already gone in order to fly to King's Landing to assist in Rhaenyra's attack on the royal residence. Later in the conflict, Daemon started looking for Aemon, who had been setting Riverland communities on fire, but he was unable to locate him. After 13 days of waiting, Daemon's adversary finally showed up for the furious showdown after Daemon returned to Harrenhal and issued a challenge for Aemon to come and meet him. Due to the God's Eye Lake's proximity to Harrenhal, the battle between Daemon and Aemon was eventually dubbed the Battle Above the God's Eye. After exchanging a few words, Daemon and Aemon mounted their dragons and prepared for what would become an epic battle. It was stated that the duel was a sight to behold. The two dragons ascended into the sky as the sun was setting. From a dozen miles away, one could hear the screams and roars of the dragons. The dragon fire was so dazzling that the locals thought the sky was on fire. The two dragons tore each other to bits, but ultimately, Caraxes managed to bite into Vhagar's throat, while Vhagar used her claws to slash at Caraxes' wings and belly, sending them both falling onto the lake below. Daemon is reported to have leapt from his dragon onto Vhagar just before the blazing ball of the dragons and the Targaryen princes reached the water's surface. There he is said to have pierced Aemon's empty eye socket with his blade, Dark Sister, before being slain by the impact of the lake. Years after the conflict, Vhagar's body was discovered with Daemon's blade still protruding from his eye and Aemon's body still tethered to the beast. On the other hand, Daemon's dragon Caraxes was able to pull himself out of the sea, but perished in front of Harrenhal's walls. After the fight, Daemon's body was never discovered, which sparked rumors that he had miraculously survived and had fled to live out the remainder of his days in secrecy. Did Daemon die in the battle above the God's Eye? Daemon Targaryen experienced many things during the Dance of the Dragons. It was evident that he and Rhaenyra Targaryen had a falling out, particularly after the latter had grown harsh and paranoid when she was in charge of King's Landing. This may help to explain why the hypothesis contends that despite surviving his fall into the lake, he chose to forego participating in the remainder of the conflict. Having stated that, let's examine the hypothesis surrounding Daemon's survival. We know that this conflict broke out after Rhaenyra successfully took King's Landing. Rhaenyra needed to bring help there since the Lord of Maidenpool was an ally. She learned from the Riverlands that Prince Aemon and Vhagar were destroying the several black towns there. She dispatched Daemon and Nettles to that place because their respective dragons, Caraxes and Sheepstealer, were the only ones capable of taking on the formidable Vhagar. However, it was said that Daemon and Nettles fell in love while in Maidenpool. Mysaria's spies informed her what was going on there, while the White Worm told Rhaenyra that her husband has been cheating on her. Rhaenyra was suspicious at the time since the dragon seeds Ulf-White and Hugh Hammer had double-crossed her. On top of that, she was stressed out since defending King's Landing was difficult in the midst of a battle. As a result, Rhaenyra ordered Nettles' death, which Daemon discovered. He let Nettles escape aboard Sheepstealer the following day, and Daemon left Maidenpool for Harrenhal for his epic showdown. According to historians, Daemon died at the battle above the God's Eye when all 4 warriors plunged into the God's Eye Lake. It didn't matter that Daemon's body was never discovered, since historians thought someone couldn't survive a violent fall into the lake from such a great distance. As a result, the conclusion was reached that Daemon's body was either swept away by the current or devoured by fish. Despite the fact that no one could have survived that fall, there were tales and hypotheses that Daemon did and was able to swim his way to the beach. Instead of returning to Rhaenyra to restart the fight against the Greens, he chose to avoid his wife and the entire Targaryen civil war. Instead, it was speculated that Daemon met with Nettles so that they might live their lives far from the battle and politics in King's Landing. Another point of credence to this notion is that Nettles and Sheepstealer vanished after the conflict. That might imply that they both lived with Daemon, who may have preferred to spend his days with her rather than the chaos that was going on in court. Nonetheless, there was simply a supposition that the maesters and historians quickly dismissed because no one could have survived such a fall that was claimed to have caused a gout of water as tall as Harrenhal's King's Spire Tower. As a result, the hypothesis remains just that, a theory. Marvelous verdict. It's hard to say which is the truth, as the historians believe Daemon couldn't have survived the fall, but popular fan theory suggests otherwise. So, it will be interesting to see which route the show's creators take. Maybe they will keep it open. Nonetheless, despite the confusion of the aftermath, the battle above the God's Eye is the most epic dragon versus dragon battle, and we just can't wait to see it unfold on the screen. How about you guys? What do you guys think about the theory? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, click on that like and share button. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.